What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 4 of Cold Takes from the Land, where our tight ends light themselves on fire, and that's not even the most worrisome thing happening in practice this week. So,
welcome back to Cold Takes from the Land. We get the coldest takes from the hottest Cleveland sports fans.
especially David Njoku. Very, very hot, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was on fire, shit.
Quite literally. But anyway, got the old 49ers coming to town this week. They are 5-0. They've been smacking everybody, and I am terrified. How about you, bud?
Yeah, me too, buddy. I was going to say I got my cold beer ready because it is going to be a long weekend, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think a lot of us Browns fans are going to tap into our alcoholism on Sunday, but let's try to be optimistic and take a look at the matchups here. So I'll read off some quick stats. In terms of offense, the Browns are pretty average, 343 yards a game, averaging 199 pass yards a game, which is not great. Still averaging 143 rush yards a game, which is still pretty good. On the flip side, the 49ers are averaging a whopping 410 yards a game, 254 through the air, 156 on the ground. And that's pretty scary to think about, buddy. That offense is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, Brock Purdy's got them.
Yeah, tough. I didn't realize we were under 200 passing yards a game. And the rushing numbers seem kind of high, but it's probably from the first 2 games of the season we had.
Yeah, just a hair under 200 yards passing, which I think that a lot of that just has to do with DTR's performance in Week 4. But I don't want to talk about that because I don't think us Browns fans want to think about that. But speaking of the quarterback,
no,
that is still a problem. It's still a problem with this mysterious, weird. I don't know what. How do you describe this injury? I've never seen something like this before, to be honest.
Yeah, I've never heard about this either. I mean, it's a shoulder contusion on his right arm, from what I know. We were kind of talking about it today. I don't think anybody thought this would be a problem a week and a half ago when we did our last podcast with him moving forward. They said, I know Mary Kay Cabot kind of touched on it earlier today. She said she spoke to a doctor that said with his severity of injury, I think it normally takes about 2 to 6 weeks to recover, and we're in week 3 now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how quickly he recovers. But with the Browns, too, I know a lot of people are upset about this. I don't understand why they don't just be more upfront with the fans about what's actually going on. Like, any other NFL fan base or team would come out and be like, yeah, he's sitting. And I also read in an article the other day, DTR didn't know until about 10:30 Sunday morning that he was actually going to play. So I'm like, how are you going to keep your players and the fans in the dark about what's actually going on? Like, let's be honest here, he's not playing on Sunday. Like, unless he comes out tomorrow and is throwing the ball around pretty regularly, I doubt he's going to be suiting up on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm gonna go at it as if he's not playing as well. I still have a separate prediction for just in case he plays, but I'm gonna kind of go at it as if it's gonna be not Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Which, with that, it will be PJ Walker who plays instead of DTR, and I definitely think that's the right decision. You need a guy in there with experience, especially against a 49ers defense, which is only honestly rivaled by the Browns defense.
I agree. I was going to say, I think you throw in the guy that has experience there and kind of see what he can do. He had some success last year in Carolina. I know the last team he was on, I think he was on the Bears practice squad, correct?
Panthers, I think. He was on the Panthers last year.
Panthers. Right. And then didn't he got dropped by the Panthers, and then I think the Bears picked him up, but they ended up cutting him because he had too many quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Either way.
But anyway, either way, he's got some experience. He's seen NFL defenses before. I doubt he's ever seen it as good as this. But at this point, you don't want to throw DTR out there to the Wolves for a second game. I mean, the Ravens' defense was good. I think we can all agree this defense is great.
Yeah, for sure. This is a tough defense. And when you look at PJ's stats, which I know stats don't tell the entire story, but I don't have them offhand, but they're not great. It's honestly his first couple years in the league where he played very sparingly was pretty rough. He was pretty average last year. I think something like 4 touchdowns to 4 picks or something like that. But I heard this on the radio this morning. These numbers could be slightly off, but I still remember the main gist of it. I believe he started in 7 total games in his career career, and he is 4-3 in those games. And again, those games are starting for, I think, a couple for the Bears, which we all know how rough they are as a team, and with the Panthers, which they've also been pretty rough the last couple years. So when he plays, like, he seems to give his team a chance to win. He's not like an absolute liability out there like a rookie DTR, you know?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think with the supporting cast we have too, I'm not sure if Njoku's playing. Like, I kind of feel like there's a good chance he doesn't, just because as his burns kind of heal, from what I was reading, they kind of get worse. So
right.
I think he's in a lot more pain this week than he was last week during our game. But even besides that, we have Amari Cooper out there. We have some decent weapons for him to throw to. Last year, obviously, he had DJ Moore for a little while, McCaffrey in and out. So, but other than that, I mean, the AFC South is tough. They had the Bucs in that division with a great defense. So I think this is going to be the best chance he has to succeed with this supporting cast.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And this Niners team is something. As I'd say, before we get into our 3 keys to potentially find a way to get a win, I'm just looking at these stats here, and this team is just loaded. Like, I am 100% certain that this is the best team in football, and I don't think it's particularly close. We got Brock Purdy out here looking like Tom Brady, completing 72% of his passes, over 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's yet to throw an interception. And then on top of that, you got Christian McCaffrey with over 500 yards already on the season with 7 touchdowns. So he's pretty darn good. And then, of course, you got Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. You still got Kyle Juszczyk there, who's a little gadget guy. And then, obviously, we know the defense, which is kind of spearheaded by Nick Bosa, who's actually kind of having a slow start to the year. He's only got 1.5 sacks on the year, but I mean, that doesn't really matter. That dude's still insane. And on top of the fact they added Javon Hargrave over the offseason. So they're insane. They're absolutely insane.
Yeah, there's talent everywhere. I mean, I think one of the first stats you threw out there, Brock Purdy, over 70% completion percentage. That's just a ridiculous stat in and of itself through 5 games of the season. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is probably the best back in the league right now. Him and Derrick Henry are up there. The receiving core is stacked. Defense, Fred Warner's flying all over the place. I think he had 1 interception last week and then a forced fumble as well in the Dallas game. He might even have had 2 interceptions. I can't quite remember. But secondary's good. Chardavius Ward's back there. He's great. I think they still have Jimmy Ward at safety, so he's awesome. I mean, there's just great talent all over the place on both sides of the ball. They're definitely the most complete team in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And you want to talk about their safety, like I said, I want to give a little shout-out to a former, I don't want to call him a former friend. It's not like we know him personally, but we feel like we do. Remember old Tashawn Gibson? Remember that guy?
I sure do. Is he starting for them?
He is. I don't know if he's starting, but he is playing significant time for them. He's got 17 tackles, and I believe he just got an interception in their last game when they clapped the Cowboys. So that's crazy. I mean, he's been in the league.
Good for him.
He's been in the league, like, I think 11 seasons, and he's still out there putting in work for good defenses. Another guy that we let go in the mid-2010s that never should have happened. But say the mid-2010s.
Yep.
This
I mean,
is now
half that team. Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniels, baby.
Yeah, a lot of for you. I'd like to think there's not a whole lot of you that don't know, but for those of you that don't know, there was a point in time where the Browns had Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan on the same coaching staff. Depression just fills my soul.
Brings pain to my soul. Yeah,
yes.
Literally, exactly.
Right, but with that, let's get into our 3 keys that we personally believe give us the best shot to somehow take down this juggernaut that is the San Francisco 49ers. I'll let you spearhead that, buddy.
Sounds good. Let's go back and forth on these. So my first key to victory is going to be the key to victory. I think our defense is going to have to hold them below their season average, so we're going to have to hold them to below 30 points this week.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely a huge one. Got to hold their offense. For my first key of the game is pretty simple. You got to really shore up the protection this week. I don't care if you got to throw extra chips from tight ends on Nick Bosa and those other guys. Get as many, chips on the edge, like I said, from tight ends and running backs. We need a big pep talk to this offensive line this week. We need them at 100%. We need them, getting their assignments, not Jed Wills missing assignments and, having just boneheaded plays and guys missing key blocks. The offensive line, really needs to be on point this week, especially if PJ Walker is going to be back there. If PJ Walker is going to have any chance, he's got to be protected.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. With that too, I think in the passing game, I think the running backs, like you said, are going to have to chip a lot and help out as much as they can.
Yeah, for sure.
So my next key is going to be the Browns must win the turnover battle. And I know we kind of stressed this in our last video. So to beat them, we're going to have to win the turnover battle, whether it's, like I said, 3-1, 1-0. We're going to have to beat them on the turnovers if we're going to have any chance of winning.
For sure. Yeah, and that's a big thing that's like the only criticism you can give this Jim Schwartz defense is not really generating a lot of turnovers, and we've been turning the ball over more than we need to. So, yeah, for sure. You gotta win the turnover battle. And with that, my second key is something I noticed against the Baltimore Ravens. Whenever they were running a lot of like misdirection and counters and, kind of getting the defensive line off balance with these different style run plays and mixing it up, that was finally when our defense started to show a little bit of chinks in the armor. They were gashing big runs with all the different misdirections, and the 49ers are the kings of misdirection. They got Deebo Samuel, who can come back there running back. Obviously, they got Christian McCaffrey. They have a couple other running backs who are pretty solid too. So they can throw a lot of misdirection. You could see jet sweeps, reverses, different counters, and Kyle Shanahan's probably one of the best play designers in the league. So you gotta really mind your P's and Q's in terms of the misdirection and the different stuff that Shanahan's gonna throw at you, and you can't let it overload your system. Is the best way I can kind of put it. As a defensive personnel, they really need to, watch. Hopefully they've watched a ton of film on it, which I imagine they have, and they got a good game plan to execute and really try to limit that.
Right. I think that's another good point there. With us, too, thankfully, I think our secondary is quite a bit better than Dallas's, especially with Trayvon Diggs being out. So we'll see how they do in that department there.
For sure.
And my third and final point is going to be our offense is going to have to score at least 20 points. I don't think you're going to get away with a 17-14 victory here this week. I think you're going to have to put up at least 20 points if you're going to even contend for a victory this week.
For sure. Yeah, that's been a struggle even with Deshaun Watson in there. It's been kind of inconsistent, and obviously especially if we got whether it's DTR or PJ Walker, in theory it's going to be PJ Walker out there. I mean, even with that, you got to get some consistency going offensively. I definitely agree with that. And my last point is kind of similar to that, except mine's a lot more specific to the run game. I said this 2 weeks ago. You gotta mix up your runs, kind of in the same vein I'm saying as how the 49ers will mix up what they do and throw different misdirections at you and whatnot. I would like to see some of that different type of run plays, not make it so damn obvious that you're going to run the ball like Stefanski's king of doing. Like we've said before, you've stressed it a bunch. When you have Nick Chubb, you can do that. We don't have Nick Chubb, and I feel like we're leaning way too much on Jerome Ford. I mean, he had that one 69-yard run. If you take that run off of the season, he'd be at 49 carries for about 117 yards, which is like putrid. And even with that 69-yard run,
it's not great.
He's still only at 3.7 yards a carry. So I want to see Kareem Hunt back there more. I want to see Pierre Strong get more carries. And if one of them is, even if they bust one or two decent runs, ride the hot hand, be running back by committee like New England was for years. Just, you got a few different guys that can be starters at any given day. Whichever one's playing the best, kind of feed the hot hand to him, but obviously keep him rested. Get the other couple guys involved as well. And PJ Walker is also, DTR is probably a little better when it comes to this department, but PJ Walker also has, some pretty good speed himself. So design a couple QB runs. Obviously, you don't want to get him killed out there, but that's what caused Watson's injury. So maybe no QB draws up the middle, but just mix it up with the run game, because I believe, even with a backup QB in there, I believe enough in our receivers and our protection enough to, get some guys open, break a couple plays here and there in terms of the pass game. And obviously Elijah Moore is a little bit of an X factor too, even though he's been a little underwhelming. He's still been kind of fun to watch sometimes. You can do some different things with him, but none of that's going to matter if you can't run the ball, especially against a defense like this. You gotta make them respect you a little bit. And if they know that you can't run the ball, no matter what, they're just gonna play the pass aggressively. And especially if PJ Walker's in there, it's gonna be bad. So you gotta run the ball and you gotta have some success.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of worried about most this season, I think, with our running backs. I hope you're right. I think we can mix up the runs a bit more than we have been doing. I'm just worried that at some point it's going to kind of be what it has been the last couple games without Nick Chubb, and we're just going to have to resort to throwing the ball a lot, and hopefully our receivers can come up with some big plays.
Right, for sure. And we've had a bye week. We've had that extra time to prepare. And I really hope.
What's Stefanski's record off the bye? Do you know?
I do not know off the top of my head. I can double check really quick.
Let me look that up real quick. 2-1 off the bye week.
I was just about to beat you there. Yeah, he's 2-1 off the bye. With his only loss.
So not bad, but obviously we've never played a team with this much talent coming off the bye week. So.
Yeah, I think the closest thing to it would probably be the Dolphins last year. We got beat by them pretty bad. But
right.
I don't think the Dolphins last year still hold a candle to this Niners team. But with that to kind of sum it up there, I hope this bye week was used, very efficiently to, get guys healthy as much as you can. Obviously, we have no freaking idea what's going on with Watson, but either way, just get guys as healthy as you can, as prepared as you can, and, go out there and, for me, obviously I know we're going to get into our predictions here momentarily, but for me, I feel like we can come out of this game with a loss, with a 2-3 record, but if we lose, if we are prepared and are competitive and, leave it all out on the field, whether Watson's out there or not, I can still feel okay dependent on the performance of this game. We didn't go game by game in our predictions for the Browns or anything like that, but my initial prediction, obviously before Chubb got hurt, was 11-6, and I had us 2-3 through the first 5 games. So I'm not necessarily going to be devastated if we're 2-3. It's just this game is going to tell a lot in terms of our preparation, especially coming off a bye week.
Right, and the way you put it in the last video too, if we lose, it's all about how we. I don't think even Browns fans are predicting the Browns are going to win this game this week. So it's really about how you come out and how you look on defense, how the offense looks, see if the running game looks any different. And even if we lose, like you said, if we go to 2-3, I know down the stretch in the last 6 weeks of the season, we have some very winnable games. So if we're 2-3 after this game, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Yeah, just got to be competitive. And with that, let's get into our predictions. I'll let you go first on this one, buddy. How do you think this game turns out?
So obviously we kind of touched on this. I think the Browns are going to lose. I think it's going to be 28 49ers to 10 for the Browns.
Okay.
And that is assuming Deshaun doesn't play. If he does play, I'm going to go 28 for the Niners and 20 for the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, you're honestly a lot nicer than I thought you were going to be. I also, as much as I love my Brownies, I am at least an honest Browns fan for the most part. And I don't foresee a win coming this week. I would be ecstatic if it does happen, and we will have a very fun, probably drunken post-game recap for you guys if that happens. But
definitely, we'll be throwing a parade over here.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I don't think the Browns are able to pull this one off. Assuming Deshaun Watson doesn't play, I think it might get kind of ugly. And I just haven't seen enough consistency out of the offense to have complete faith. So I'm gonna say, assuming Watson doesn't play and it's PJ Walker, I'll say Niners 34 to the Browns 13. Which sounds pretty.
You think the defense is going to give up 34 points?
I can't.
They're good, but I think this is the best defense in the league outside of them. So I think the two best defenses are going head-to-head. Just don't see us giving up that many points. I hope I'm right, but I could definitely see us giving up possibly 34, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just a gut feel, I guess. And with that, if Watson does play, and if he plays, I'm just going to assume it's the Deshaun Watson we've been seeing. I'm not going to try and guess what percent he'll be at if he plays with the injury and whatnot. Right. I think it'll be a lot closer, and it'll be an encouraging game if he does play, but I'll still probably say Niners pull out a win. I'll say 24-17. And I think it'll be like one of those 24-17s where we're losing 24-10 and then we score a touchdown and we get a stop and it kind of comes down to a last drive. But if I'm taking a last drive and with the current iteration of the Browns offense against this Niners defense, I don't know if we can get it done down the stretch against this team. But I'm going to throw a fun one in there. Let's say if for whatever reason PJ Walker gets abducted by aliens or something, and DTR has to play, I'll say Niners win 45-7.
Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna. So if DTR plays, I'm gonna say Niners 35, Browns 7. I think you had hit the nail on the head there with the points scored.
All
I
right.
kind of want to go back to what you talked about. If Deshaun does play, if he plays, you think we kind of even out the time of possession a bit, and you think they score 10 less points than if PJ Walker plays? You
Yes,
think they only score 24 if he plays?
yes, because even the inconsistencies Deshaun Watson's had here, he still shows that like he can make some plays happen, and he can make some great throws, and do some stuff with his feet. So I think with that, and I also think the Niners will play our offense with a lot more respect if Watson's out there. So
Yeah.
I just see a little bit of more longer drawn out drives with the offense with a little bit more success. Obviously, no matter who we've played, even in Watson's bad games, he's always had an excellent connection with Amari Cooper. So I definitely see I see the offense being able to move a bit and give the Niners problems, and I think that'll keep our defense not too tired, and I think we'll hang in there. I think it'll come down to the last 10 minutes of the game, but again, it's just I have to go off what I've seen, and what I've seen is a Niners team that honestly I would not be shocked if they went undefeated and won the Super Bowl, versus a Browns team that I think at best is a playoff team that can make a little bit of noise, but at worst is a sub 500 team. So I just have to go off what I see.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I think the key to victory here, too, is I'm going to add a fourth key to victory here. I think you got to get to Brock Purdy. I mean, if you're going to beat this team, he's undefeated when he starts for the 49ers. I think we're going to have maybe 4, maybe even 5+ sacks this game to actually beat them.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a big day out of Miles and Big Z and company. But, that's...
Definitely. Because with them, too, I think who's going to be going up against... their left tackle is going to be Za'Darius on that side, right?
I think in the base sets it'll be Za'Darius, but they like to move Myles Garrett all over the place, so I'm sure sometimes it'll be Myles,
Right.
sometimes he'll be on the other side against their right tackle, sometimes he'll line up inside, he'll go all over the place.
Right. It'll be an interesting game, that's for sure.
But with that is our predictions for how we see this game going down and our overall thoughts. I know it's not the most positive preview video, and there's a lot less optimism flying around, but like I said, I think if we can be competitive even in a loss, we can come out with our heads held high with a much lighter schedule in front of us. So with that, thank you guys for watching again. We appreciate it, and this has been the 4th installment of Cold Takes from the Land, and we will see you hopefully in the next video with the Browns victory. Peace.
Cold takes from the land.